Nice.
Yeah, nothing says fun like ocular puns. So most of us are fresh back off our plane rides from PAX East in Boston, and we to be fair, we made so much content. Kyle, Jason, and I ran around with the camera and lighting and microphones, interviewing so many different groups of people, everything from cosplayers to board game makers. It was absolutely incredible. So over the next several weeks, we'll get a chance to start bringing some of those videos to you and slowly releasing that content. We're excited to show you some of the things that we were able to do there. On top of that, huge shout out and thank you to Intel Gaming for bringing us out there at their booth. We had a rad time. And Paul and I got to hang out. Paul basically beat the daylights out of people in card games, which was awesome.
Yes, I did. That was good. I
And I'm
also spent
noticing
some
that I
time
look
in the
tired.
bathtub, so that was
Okay.
fun.
You what?
Also spent some time in the bathtub, so.
Dude, that bathtub
good,
was so. Paul and I got this room at the wharf, and our bathtub was basically knee deep. It was
huge.
nuts. It was so cool. So we took turns taking baths. All right. Yeah, we got to meet a lot of community members, but most importantly, we got to look forward to today's build, which is awesome. Now, before we get started into that, don't forget, typing exclamation get cube with a Q is how you're going to get the link. If you haven't already gotten into the giveaway, make sure you do that right now. The codes that you'll find us giving out is going to be for that computer right there in the back, the beautiful purple one with a brand new ARC A770 graphics card. It's amazing. The codes will be given out. You'll have to pay attention to how many they're for, and then whether they're unlimited or they're for a specific amount of people. You want to make sure you've got that giveaway page up and ready to go. You get that redemption in, and each code's worth 100 entries into the giveaway, so you've got just a little bit better chance to try and hop in on it. You can find out more about our codes over at our Discord at discord.gg/CLX Gaming, or on our social media. That's YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter at CLX Gaming. I don't know why I have to say it like that, but I've had a lot of coffee. Also, you can find the final 5 codes I'll be giving out on my stream on Friday, which will be rad. 5 people are going to get that code. In the meantime, gentlemen, we have an incredibly unique build with some parts we've never even touched before from Mary in California. Why don't you walk us through what we're going to be doing today?
Yeah, so this is a really stacked build today. This is a custom configured raw off our website. So starting out, we've got a Ryzen 9 7950X, 360 AIO for this. The motherboard we're going to be using is an ASRock X670E Taichi. It's a beast of a board. First time we're seeing it on the show. We got 128 gigs of DDR5 5200 speed memory, 1 terabyte NVMe Kingston drive for our OS drive, and then a 2 terabyte NVMe Kingston for our storage drive. We've got a sound card, a 4080, a huge giant 1600 watt power supply, and it's all going in an Evolv X white. So.
Alrighty, and don't forget, if you hear us mention anything on the show today that you may not understand, don't worry, just go ahead and feel free to ask questions. There are no dumb questions in this chat. This is intended for everybody to learn about and to discover, so please throw it in the chat. We'll make sure that it gets answered as quickly as possible.
All right,
there
so
we go.
Handing over this board to Hayden. So this board's pretty sweet. Show him that. You got like a viewing window in here, which is pretty awesome. And I'm just going to make some more room here.
Packaging.
And we will get the case up here to show you. This white Evolv looks great.
Now, Hayden, are we allowed to ask how you're feeling?
Oh, I am feeling so much better.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Do you want to go into what happened?
I couldn't even tell you what happened, but I can give you an estimate.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Or a guesstimate. On my break time that I had here, took my little break, and on my break, I got something in my eye. I don't know if it was dust or dirt or an eyelash, which I thought it was an eyelash. Whatever it was, it got in my eye, and I couldn't get it out. I tried flushing my eye, and it still felt like something was in there. It got to the point where my eye was watering so much that I could not even keep it open. And yeah, long story short, went to the ER, and they said that whatever was in there was out. So I did get it out, but it felt like it was in there because I had a scratch on my eye. And so they gave me numbing eye drops.
Corneal abrasion?
Yep, I had a left eye abrasion.
I had that happen literally the night before I was shoutcasting an event for Halo 5, and it was ridiculous. It just looked like I was either crying in one eye or and glasses on. It was hilarious, but yeah, really glad that you're okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, those are eye pain is when it happens, it's awful, absolutely terrible. So glad to hear that you're doing much better. Now, I do want to talk about a couple things that we've got going on today, and one of them is this absolute monster of a board. So this, again, as mentioned, is the ASRock X670E Taichi. Now, there's multiple different things that we're going to point out on this board, but once you get a chance to look at the top, you're going to already see why this looks so unbelievably unique. First of all, notice the extreme number of heat sinks all the way across this board to maximize its performance. The South Bridge is custom designed for cooling. You can see that piping down there. All of the shreds across the top of the I/O shield and the North Bridge as well. Plus, it's also got some interesting heat shields to the right of the RAM, which so far we've never seen on a board like this. So let's talk about what you're seeing there with all the heat sinks, and what kind of effect is this going to have on its performance?
So this heatsink right here, if I believe, yes, you can put an M.2 here on the side by the RAM, which I've never seen before.
Yeah, that's pretty wild that it's there. There's probably so many M.2s on this.
It'll just provide more ventilation and cooling for this board.
And something to point out too, like on the South Bridge here, you can see this heat pipe that we usually see and show off on the video card. So that's pretty cool to see one wrapping around.
Now I noticed there's a gear on top of there. Is that a fan? Is it just aesthetic? Like what is that for?
Yeah.
It's just aesthetics.
So that gear is aesthetics. That's a Taichi aesthetic there. They really like putting the gears in. It does look cool. It almost looks like watch gears. I wish they moved. I think that would be pretty sweet. So ASRock, you know, if you can make those move, that'd be cool.
My first thought was that there was an internal fan. Like we've seen some other ASRock boards that have a fan down there, and I thought maybe the fan is underneath and it's going to move that gear, but apparently it's not. It still looks absolutely wild.
It does.
It's a brilliant looking board, and some of the features we're going to be talking about regarding this board are going to blow the public away. But first steps first, because I know Hayden's just wanting to get all up in this board, let's talk about that processor. This is an AMD Ryzen 9 7950X. It's a 4.5 gig 16-core processor. Paul, what can this processor do? Let's talk about it.
So this processor can do everything. This is a 16-core, like you mentioned, 32-thread processor. It's got a base speed of 4.5 gigahertz and a boost clock of 5.7. So this this is top of the line right here. I'm actually been thinking about switching over to AMD for my main system. So if I was, this would be the one I would pick.
I'll be honest, because you know I love AMD for production. That would definitely blow audio production out of the water for that. So there we go. We're going to get that put in there. Hayden, why don't you walk us through the process and steps of getting the processor just right so you know how you're going to install it.
Yeah, so on every processor, for the most part, there's going to be a gold little triangle, you can see. And on the actual socket cover itself, there's one here.
Oh.
And then if you lift it up, there's one right there. So basically, you just want to match up the arrows, and there's only one way it goes in. So if it doesn't fall in place, then it ain't in there right.
Keep in mind, if it jams, don't force it.
Yeah.
Pick it back up, lay it straight down. That's the key. Nice feature on these boards. You drop that securing clip down, and it's going to pop out the little plastic holder there, so you've got it all in place and ready to go. Now we're going to install this first. It looks like, I'm going to imagine next thing is up is going to be the first of two different solid-state M.2 drives. These are both going to be Kingstons. The operating system drive is a 1 terabyte NVMe M.2, and of course that secondary storage is the 2 terabyte NVMe M.2. Now, one of the neat things about this board is the fact that it supports a wild number of different features, including, just let's start talking about the M.2s. There is it's called an M.2 blazing. Now, we've talked about the fact that M.2, especially with PCIe 5, it has just gotten incredibly faster. This Blazing M.2 has a transfer rate of 128 gigs per second. How different is that from previous generations?
So I don't know the exact transfer speed difference, but it is a big one.
I know Gen 4 is 64 gigs.
Okay.
So this is nearly twice as fast. It's absolutely wild. It also comes with, so it's got 4 total M.2 slots. You got your Blazing up there on top that Hayden's about to be putting in right now. And then you've got an M.2 on the far side to the right of the RAM. And you've got 2 M.2s down below. So lots of opportunity for expansion with this board. What's your first impressions as you're pulling these heat sinks off? What are the things you're noticing about them?
Well, first things first, you can see that copper pipe running through. I've never seen it being ran underneath the M.2 cover. So that's really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool how they've connected the North Bridge up here, which is where, you know, all the big heat sinks are on a board. You know, this is the bulk of what you want to cool here, and everything else, it's nice, but not really too crazy. But seeing them connected with the same heat pipe down here, I mean, I'm sure with this heat pipe being exposed, this is probably all the same one running around through here. So yeah, that is a first for me as well. That's really cool.
Now, does that have, does that alter or improve the heat dispersion capabilities or capacity of the board because it's all one pipe?
So it will improve it. So the big thing here with heat pipes, you can think of heat kind of like water. So it's going to be coming through these pipes, but then what you want it to spread out to these fins here. You can see these cut in. You want that heat to go straight from the pipe, and that's what's going to happen. It's going to go from the pipe into the heat spreaders, and then from there our case fans will take the heat away. And that's the general idea of how this all works. So basically, the more surface area for that heat to go, the better your cooling is going to be.
Yeah, this board is absolutely mesmerizing. It's got some really incredible things. The other thing that it has, it's interestingly enough, a first that I've ever seen on these boards, you may have seen it, but I've never heard of it before. If you notice the 5-line striation directly above the word Taichi on that I/O shield, underneath there is a fan. I've never heard of a fan being in the actual I/O shield section. And it's got a built-in fan to help just increase the cooling capacity, it looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't seen that before either. So they've got the philosophy of infinite potential is what it says right here.
And they're not wrong at all. Mm-hmm. When we get a chance to look at that I/O shield, I can't wait to talk about the new Lightning Gaming Port USBs. These are a Type B, Type 2. What's the regular shape? I always forget.
Type A.
So they're Type A, but they're gold. And these are considered Lightning gaming ports because of how fast they are with interaction. From a networking standpoint, this device comes with a killer 2.5 gigabyte Ethernet port on here. Plus, it's got 2 USB 4 Type C ports, which is just wicked. All right, so now we're getting that top one put back in. And yeah, I'm looking here at the diagram, and yeah, that heat pipe runs all the way around that board, which is incredible. Smart.
Yeah, something else I'm noticing too about the I/O here is our audio ports are in the middle. Typically, those are always down here at the bottom, so that's kind of unique too.
Also interesting. As far as the USB ports are concerned on the device, we have got, well, let's take a look at this. So for internal USB 2s, there are 6. There are 2 Thunderbolt ports, which is your USB-C high-speed ports in the back. You've also got, you know, they shouldn't separate these out into different spots. That's also painful. You got your 2 PCIe 16s, a multi-graphics SLI, which is an option you can do. What does that mean if you have a multi-graphics SLI?
So that means if you were to, like, let's say we're using some older cards and we wanted to, you know, run 2 like 980s, we could SLI. This board has the capability to SLI them together. The SLI part is the board has to have the capability in order for you to run dual video cards. So that's what that's referring to.
Gotcha.
We don't really see SLI anymore, so I mean it's definitely good to have, but yeah. probably won't use it.
And when it comes to peripherals, and obviously we've got a sound card going to this, so I have a feeling this person's going to be processing audio and or film, and I'll explain why that is later. On the rear of this board, there are eight USB 3.2 ports, and for the internal ports, there's 7 USB 3.2s. Now, if it's internal, does that mean it can be used for the front, or does that mean it has to be used internally?
So yeah, it can be used from the front. What that means is, you know, typically we use it for the front because obviously most cases have USB headers on the front. But what that also means is if you get like a USB-C card, a Thunderbolt card or something like that, typically those cards obviously will be installed in a PCIe slot, and then they'll also have a cable coming out of them that will need to be plugged into the motherboard header for them to work.
Gotcha. From a networking standpoint, on top of the Ethernet card, it also has comes with Wi-Fi 6E, which is basically, and the way that they've designed it is near 5G speeds wirelessly, which is wild to think about. But then you add onto the fact that this is the first board I've seen it on. This comes with Bluetooth 5.3, which
yeah, this board is definitely
bonkers.
Like just leading edge in all facets.
Yeah, very, very impressed with this board. Right now, you can see I believe that's an Enermax, yes?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, that is our Enermax liquid cooler. That is a Liqmax 3 ARGB 360 closed loop. We had a great opportunity to take a look at many different AIOs and open loop systems while we were there at the show. For those who don't know what those are, Paul, walk us through what each of those are and why they're important to the cooling of a CPU.
Yeah, so the difference, as far as liquid cooling goes, there's 2 main ways to liquid cool your PC. And that's one is using an AIO like we have here, which is a closed loop system. The other is an open loop system, and that's where we get the custom bend tubes that are usually hard. You can use soft tubes on those as well, and you're actually installing plates on the motherboard to install fittings for those pipes. Those are called open loop because you actually do open up the system to fill it up with the liquid. The AIOs are referred to as closed loop because all the coolant is already in here. We don't have to do anything other than install our mounting hardware on our pump onto the board, plug it in, and it's good to go. So an AIO this is what I use personally. It provides great cooling and no maintenance at all. Once you get it installed, you're good. The open loop systems are really for like a showcase system. If you're wanting to show off your system and just have it look out of this world, that's the open loop for you. They provide excellent cooling. The only reason I don't have one is because I just mess with my computer too much. I don't want to have to drain my system every time I want to get in there.
Yeah. Yeah, some of the open loops were absolutely incredible. We did see a 4080 water block, and Paul and I were fascinated by looking at the difference in size with how that 4080 was mounted, how big it actually is with a backplate on it and a water block versus the standard size of your stock Nvidia RTX 4080, which is massively different.
Yeah, it really is, and you can think of that way when you're cooling your video card. You know, that way you were liquid cooling our video card, whereas on these big ones, it's air cooled with a heat sink and fan, just like an air cool would be on top of the CPU. So when you have that liquid cooling there, you don't need near as much of the surface area to deal with that heat as you do if you're using, a typical, fans.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of fans, there are several different ways you can mount fans to an AIO. Which way are we doing it, and what are the options for doing it?
All right, so we are going to be pushing air through on this. You can put them on either side of the radiator here, but what we want to be doing, the preferred method on an AIO is to be pushing air through. You get a little bit better airflow that way. But if we had them on the other side, they would be pulling. So those 2 methods are referred to as push and pull. And then you can also do a push-pull, which actually I think we are doing a push-pull on this build, now that I see the amount of fans here. I think we are doing a push-pull. I forgot this was an Evolv. So yes, we are doing a push-pull on this system. So we're going to have fans on both sides of the radiator. The big thing to, if you're doing a push-pull system at home, just make sure your fans, both sets of fans, are blowing in the same direction. You don't want them both bringing air in. So
we're going to be doing 10 fans on this build.
Yep, 10 fans on this,
We
which
just
is
awesome.
If we want to push pull on top or push pull at the front.
yeah. I think we should probably, let's see, once we get it, let's get the motherboard mounted, and then we'll see if we're going to put it in the front or up top. Typically, we would put this up front, but it might look a little bit better up top. What we're going to look for when we get it mounted in is these heat spreaders on this motherboard are obviously pretty big. So we're going to be looking there for clearance. Then we'll see when our RAM's installed too. So we'll go ahead and get our case up here. Oh, is our video there?
There we are. While we're getting that up there, can we just do a quick, I want to do a quick shot of that I/O shield real fast.
Oh, yeah.
You want to just stand that board on its end real quick?
Hey, Jason. Hey, Jason. Our monitor is back too. But yeah, Hayden, if you can just hold that up. Can you see it, DJ?
Yeah, just flip it on its end so I can see that. I just want to see the back of it where the actual ports are. There we go.
I mean, like...
Okay. Now, those look like, are those BIOS buttons or are those IR?
Yeah, so those are BIOS buttons there. That's what those are.
Nice.
Clear CMOS.
Yeah, clear CMOS and BIOS buttons.
And as you can see, between where the 4 USB 3.2s are on the left-hand side, that space between there and the audio ports, that's where that little fan goes. That's where the little fan is spinning and blowing air, which, again, a feature I've never seen on any board we've done so far. But very clean-looking board. Yeah, it's just, this is impressive. I'm really kind of in awe of this thing.
It's crazy. Something I want to point out too while we're looking at this I/O is obviously, you know, your Type A USBs. Black is the typical 2.0 that we see, and blue is 3.0. That's pretty much standard. But what we can see here on this, they've got the faster USB ports in yellow, and that's something they're doing for just their branding. You know, when we see an MSI board, sometimes they're red. So I just kind of want to point that out. On this board, they're yellow. Yeah, and that's what those are for.
And from a speed standpoint, the difference is night and day. The other thing that's really cool about the USB 4 Type Cs is that they bring, obviously, that lightning fast transition. It is 40 gigs per second, supports up to 9 volt at 3 amp, 27 watt fast charging capability. And yeah, and it's PD 3.0 for super fast charging. So you can just plug your devices right in there, fast charge it. It's great. A lot of people over here. Who's this Easy Tunes guy? Let's go with that resub. It's Easy Tunes. Nice. Gummy Bear Ninja says I started playing Destiny 2. Heck yeah. I'm gonna ask Gummy Bear Ninja, what's your guardian? Are you a hunter, a warlock, or a titan? I'm waiting to hear the answer because I'm probably gonna be in the minority again. Warlock. All right, there we go. Easy Tunes over here like, swear to God, it's a hunter. Yeah, so with all those features on this board, you're a Warlock main as well? Nice. I am one of the minority. I'm a Titan. I smash and grab. That's what I do.
I was always a hunter. I always loved the hunter. Hunter's best.
Yeah. So, but yeah, with those being there, and then you add on to that extreme speed of those Type A, the Type A USB 4. So it's unheard of, but yeah, also amazing. Now, as we're getting this in here, don't forget this board is also RGB on the back end, so you're going to have a nice light, a bright light off the back of the case. It's going to glow a bit. On top of all the lighting on top, you can custom orient it and adjust it yourself, or you can connect it to all of your lighting, which I assume that's what we're going to be doing. Now, this is a DDR5 board. It can take up to 6600 RAM, and that is going to be important because it has a max of 128 gigs, which also happens to be what we're going to be putting in it.
The RAM's free. Do you want to do the RAM now, Hayden? First, yeah. We're doing this build a little bit differently. Typically, you'd see us install the AIO right now and then move on to our RAM and then mount the board.
I needed to We gotta decide
But
if
we're gonna kind of test fit a little bit here since we're doing a push-pull on the radiator. So
I think pushing in the front.
Absolutely. Yo, Black Waldo, thank you for the sub hype. It's tier 3. Let's go. Nice. A tier 3 sub. Get on it, my friend. Thank you so much. It is great. Thank you all for the support. Helps us keep the lights on here. There we go. Crayon eater. Listen, I haven't eaten crayons since they stopped making them in pepper flavored.
Didn't know you were a Marine.
There we go. No, I was Navy,
That's
but
right.
every now and then we like to snack on other people's things. Came out wrong. So, 432 gig sticks of DDR5 5200 RAM for a total of 128 dual channel memory. As far as performance goes, all 4 of these slots are used. What does this mean with regards to data access and processing throughput?
Yeah, so we've got both of our channels full here. Let's say it was just a 64 gig system, so we had the same capacity or same size of RAM there. We want it to be in dual channel. Basically, that allows instead of your memory going down one road to the CPU, it opens up 2. That's probably the best, the simplest way I can put it there.
Now, how does RAM affect the performance of your computer? What kind of things is Mary going to notice as if she went with, let's say, 16 gigs of RAM or 32 gigs of RAM versus 128? What are the what's the performance? What kind of load times are we talking about? Where's the difference happen?
Yeah, so RAM is commonly referred to, or at least used to be, as like RAM is speed. RAM's what makes your system faster. Now that's changed a little bit, as the technology has changed. But what RAM's going to allow you to do in a system, if you're playing a big game that's got a lot, it's just going to really smooth out everything. And if you're going to do video processing and be running, Adobe or anything like that, that's where it'll really shine too.
Gotcha. I mean, I remember my system increased dramatically, especially with boot times, once I went from 16 to 32. Flaxer with the prime sub. Let's go. Thank you. All right, so what are some of the considerations that you're having, because obviously we want to make sure this will fit. So what are some of the considerations that need to be taken into account when you're doing a push-pull?
So,
Well, you want me to do it?
oh, go ahead, yeah.
So basically on this board we have these big heat sinks here, and this RAM is, it'll be in the way.
It's not, super tall, but
It's
it
not
is
super
up
tall,
there.
but if we were to push-pull, I don't know how to explain this. We would have fans like right here, and that wouldn't be able to actually go into the top of the case because it would be hitting.
Gotcha.
So if we go to the front, we would avoid hitting the board and having actual room to mount this radiator.
Yeah, with the size of this case, the amount of space we have on the inside, even with having a larger video card in here, we've got so much room that we can compensate for the extra fan width in the front with no problems.
War Machine Lord says, just put together a new PC, but no signal out to monitor through GPU. Is it possible my RAM is not compatible with my motherboard and CPU? And I would say my first question is it a DDR4 or 5 board? And which version of RAM did you get? But that's more of a Paul and Hayden question. Guys, what could possibly be the issue? Yeah,
so no video output initially. The first thing I would do is, obviously, I'm assuming your system's booting, you're just not getting video. First thing I would do is, if you're getting video like through the motherboard, and that's how you know you're booting fine, but when you're plugged into your video card, it's not. The first thing I would do is check your drivers. Second thing is, depending on what you've got for your monitor, if you've got it as HDMI or DisplayPort, maybe just try switching it to a different port on your video card. That might even be the easiest thing to do. That can sometimes fix it. You might have a dead port on your video card. If you're not planning on using it, it's not the end of the world. That's definitely disappointing if you got a new system. But yeah, drivers would be the first thing. And then obviously, if that's not getting you anywhere, if you have access to a second video card, throw the second video card in there, see if that does it. Those are that's the first few things I would try.
And one thing to point out, that was the reason why I mentioned this earlier, but I didn't want to bring it up until we got to the 128 gigs of RAM. I think that this is probably going to be a machine that is going to be used for video and or audio processing. We've got this incredibly powerful audio card that's going to be going into this. on top of, so I mean, it's we're putting a Creative Sound Blaster Audigy FX. This thing is no joke. I mean, there are bigger ones, but if you're wanting to make sure you're getting accurate surround sound brought in, you're filming things, you're going to be doing a lot of video editing. Anybody who's ever used Premiere or DaVinci knows that anytime you're rendering, you have to cross your fingers and pray to God it doesn't freeze up. Well, that's because it takes so much memory and processing power to do so. With 128 gigs of RAM, that's going to provide a lot of overhead to enable that system to, I would say, relax its process a little more and allow it to flow a lot faster. You've got this Audigy here, so which makes it great for input of sound. You've also got the opportunity for really having a great audio system surrounding you, so that if you're filming something in surround sound or you're just making music in surround sound, you've got a full fidelity right there engaged with your studio monitors. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be a media machine. Also, Kensu, thank you so much for that Tier 1 3-month subscription. Yeah, buddy.
All right, so now that we've got our configuration kind of figured out, we're going to go ahead and install the AIO, and Hayden's going to put the thermal paste on there.
Thermal paste? What's that? It's
a delicious snack to, you know, snack on while you're building PCs. Yeah. No, the thermal paste is what you've seen Hayden put on there. It's like it's a paste, essentially.
Thermal compound.
Yeah, thermal compound that it provides good heat transfer between our CPU itself right here and this copper plate for our water pump right here.
Gotcha.
You definitely need to have thermal paste. If you don't, when your system will still boot up if it's not on there, but it'll get pretty warm. You'll notice performance for sure. And that thermal paste will turn more liquid as it heats up. So it's pretty thick right now. You can see it on there. But once it gets spread out and gets, you know, warmed up from the system running, it'll spread out even more.
It's such a tiny amount too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you definitely want to use, I mean, that's plenty right there. Because once we screw this plate down on there, so you got to think, you got two metal surfaces coming together, you know, with that we are screwing down. So it's going to flatten that out really good and even smooth it out even more once it gets running.
Yeah. All right, you see that power cord right there. Of course, the Enermax needs that power for the pump, the way the pumps work. Well, Paul, walk us through how the pump works and that flow process.
Yeah, so you can see Hayden's putting those screws on right now, and that white cable that you can see kind of run down the motherboard there, that is our power for the pump. Now this is going to be it's going to look like a regular fan header. You can see this one's a 3-pin, sometimes they're a 4-pin. And this is going to get plugged into the CPU fan header on the motherboard. Now this is a high-end motherboard, so the CPU fan is probably also labeled as water pump or AIO, but this is the same connection that will look like a fan. But the reason why you want to put this on the CPU pump or the water pump header on the motherboard is because that header specifically will regulate the voltage going to the pump so that it'll spin faster or slow it down depending on what the system needs at that time.
Gotcha. Is it ever possible to overcool your processor?
No, not really. I mean, no.
Yeah.
There's some, you know, you could see some like I don't know if anybody's seen it out there in chat, but there's like liquid nitrogen builds that you can watch.
Yeah, I'm gonna use ice.
Yeah, that might get up there, and if you watch those, I don't even want to call them builds because it's usually just a test bench motherboard with a cup on it for the liquid nitrogen. But there they put towels all over the motherboard because it cools it so much that there's condensation. So they don't want water getting on the board. So, you know, and I don't even think that's too much cooling. So yeah, I'd say probably not.
All right, getting that all lined up in there. So from a cable management standpoint, Hayden, what are some things to pay attention to when you're getting this all connected in?
Well, what I like to do is try and get the cable, as you can see, wrapped around and underneath. If I didn't do that, it would look very messy. So yeah, all I'm trying to do is trying to wrap it around. It's a little tight with the AM5, so I just kind of went around the right side and tucked it underneath the tube, so you won't be able to see it once it's all mounted. So it'll look good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is one of those things that we do for our builds just to make it look good. I mean, really, you could just, we could just plug that cable in and leave the cable all hanging out. It would function fine, but it just wouldn't look good.
Okay.
So, all right. Well, I think we're ready to mount the motherboard into the case.
Actually,
you want to do fans first?
Fans on this side first.
Let's do fans. You're just doing fans on one side?
Yep. So
why is that?
When we get it into the actual board,
mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put the fan through the other side and
nice.
Put the radiator screws through.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. So I can show this too, where we're planning on putting this AIO, what we've done here. So we are gonna have, obviously the board mounted in the main, but I wanna focus on the front. This is the front of the case right here. So our AIO is gonna be mounted on the inside, right here, and we're gonna have fans. You're gonna have a fan inside, then radiator, then fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or fan on the outside.
Radiator,
okay,
on the inside.
So we're gonna have fan on this side of the case. Then,
oh, interesting.
Yep.
You can do that?
Yep.
It's
so
if we were to put the fan radiator fan, there would be a chance the GPU would hit.
Mm-hmm. So we're gonna have
gotcha.
fan, case, radiator, and
no,
other
sorry.
fan.
No, yeah, you're right. I'm gonna put fan radiator.
Oh,
fan.
okay. We take.
I do realize that the front panel is
that's what I was wondering. I didn't know the front
out.
panel could go on, but
okay.
So yeah, so we're gonna have case, fan, radiator, fan. Sorry, what did you say, DJ?
Oh, it's case, fan, radiator, fan.
Yep, my fault.
But is there enough room in the top for it to handle fan, case, radiator, fan?
No,
I mean, underneath,
no, with this top panel, yep, it would all have to be under there.
Sadly, I tried that like last week.
That would
just
be cool.
testing stuff out, and you can't put the top.
Yeah, up here, they won't slide on. You have to have some low profile fans or something.
Gotcha.
It wouldn't work.
Interesting. So, what are some of the precautions that you're taking, and in order to make sure that the fans and radiator, as thick as this is going to be, it's thick, so that it doesn't come in contact or compromise the functionality of not only the radiator hoses but also the motherboard?
Yeah, so even with this being an E version of ATX, this is an eATX board, so it's a little bit wider than a regular ATX. What we're looking at here is just the interior of this fan case. Now we know just from looking at this, we have so much room in here, we don't even have to worry about the motherboard extending past and hitting that. Our fan and radiator combo is probably going to come out to about right here where my hand is, maybe a little bit further, and the end of our motherboard isn't going to be even past this area.
Oh, sweet. Perfect. Okay. Awesome.
But if we were working on a smaller case, yeah, we'd have to be a little tighter.
Yeah. There was a code drop, by the way. It's Cube, AAZC. That is always after zinc, calcium. Or always Arizona, Charlie. It was for 10 people, so make sure you grabbed it. But if you didn't, don't worry. There's more coming. And it is the end of the month, so we're down to the last final moment. Oops, I can't take that call. The last final few days of getting this through. The contest ends on Friday at midnight, so you want to make sure that you've got all your entries in. I do not know what Ivory's plans are for Friday, but I will have 5 final codes to give out on Friday. So, and it'll happen before the DJ set. All right. So we're side mounting that radiator.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yeah, to the front of the case, yep.
Now, I don't think we've ever seen that done before, to be honest.
Yeah, if we would have, it would have been an Evolv on the show, and it's been a while since we've done one, but we do also mount them to the top, so.
One code for 5 people there at Temperance. So, and I guarantee it will be heavily encoded. Definitely heavily encoded. Yeah, Friday's set's going to be a lot of fun. It's a huge celebration for Dot Chaos. We had a mutual love of all things Chicago house music, so we're going to do some funky house mixed with some tribal and throw some Miami and New York house in there as well. Another puzzle like last time? Yes, Secret Nick. Yes, only this time it's not going to just be for subs. This is going to be for everybody in the channel. So you'll have to listen carefully to the things that I say. and try and discern what may or may not work. But I feel like everybody loved the puzzle last time. It was, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Okay, getting those final ones on there. I'm actually really excited to see how this all is gonna work out for that push-pull, I mean.
Yeah, this will look pretty nice in there, especially with a whole bunch of extra RGB.
One thing we didn't cover real fast is what Hayden is putting in there now, and those are screwing the motherboard down to the case via the standoffs. Tell me what the standoffs do and why it's important to make sure you've got all 9 of them lined up properly.
Yeah, so the standoff is a very small screw-looking thing that is very important in your build. So Hayden's installing the motherboard mounting screws right now, and you can see those holes there that he's going into. Under those holes are standoffs, and that's what's separating this motherboard from the case itself. So
are they non-conductive?
The standoffs provide a grounding point for the motherboard. So
gotcha. Okay.
So that's what's actually going to ground it there. So if we had a standoff in a wrong spot here, and the motherboard is making contact with it, it could cause anything from just minor issues to a dead board.
Oh wow. Okay. Gotcha. Here we go. Yeah, this is going to be very interesting, especially with everything else that's going in there. One thing that I will say is that when it comes to we'll talk about that when we install it. Never mind. I was going to talk about the sound card for a second, but we'll get to that in a minute. We'll get this all down here. Now, the 3 fans you're going to do on the other side, explain to me how you know which is going to be blowing, which is going to be sucking, and where you're going to put them.
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you're looking at
intake
a fan
or outtake,
here,
I'll say that. That's a better way of saying it.
Yeah. So if you're looking at a fan here, you've got what's referred to as the pretty side of it right here, which obviously it's pretty, it looks good, it's a good looking fan. Then this back side has this gross grill right here, and it still doesn't look that bad. But this is how you can tell which way the air is going to blow. So the side of the fan that has the grill is going to be the exhaust, where the air is coming out of. And obviously the clean side is where the air is going in. Back in the day on the old fans, you had arrows printed on the side here, one with the direction of the fan and another one with the direction of the airflow. So we're making sure, and you can see on the inside of this case here that Hayden's got these fans pulling through the radiator right now, because you can see the fan grills. And then once we get these fans on the other side, they'll be pushing through.
Gotcha. Once again, we've removed the option presently for Hayden to use
Power
tools
tool.
that are motorized.
The forbidden drill.
The forbidden drill.
It's just for the sake of the speed of the show. Otherwise, this thing would have been built 5 minutes ago.
No kidding.
All right, getting these all in there.
I love
now,
this white Evolv. This thing just looks so good.
well, and it's a full depth. It's a full depth case, unlike some of those Leon Lees, which has that 2/3 design. This is a full. It sits right up on the back. As far as the airflow for the case goes, how is this going to function, and what are some of the features of this case that allows it to be so fluid with its exhaust and its intake?
Yeah, so this is more of a traditional airflow as far as computer cases go, where we have our intake in the very front where our radiator is and our exhaust out the rear. Now we have extra fans that we're installing in this case, so we're going to be exhausting out the top and out the rear on this. So we're going to have 6 fans in the front on the push-pull radiator doing our intake, and then 4 fans doing exhaust. Now you mentioned this is a full depth chassis, and what we had mentioned too about the O11s that we like is it keeps the power supply on the back, and all that heat from the power supply doesn't come in the main body of the case. And this case does it as well, just in a different way. So I'm going to rotate this real quick, Hayden.
No, you're good.
So we're going to have our power supply mounted down here. You'll be able to see it with this little window here. You can see we've got this shroud. That's what this is referred to as, our power supply shroud. So this is going to keep all of the heat from the power supply just down here. Power supply is going to intake its air through the bottom and exhaust it out this back right here. You can see it's got its own dust filter right here. You can see.
That's what I was going to ask about. Yeah.
You can see it slides out there. I won't slide it out all the way, but yep.
It's easy to clean then. How often should a person be checking the cleanliness of their power supply filter.
Really, I would probably check it every 6 months. Oh, sorry if I cut you off there a little early.
Oh, no.
I'd probably do it every 6 months, maybe a year. You don't have to do it too frequently. If you've got like, 18 cats in your house, maybe check it monthly. Maybe question other decisions too. I don't know.
I'm a crazy cat lady. With regards to the cleaning of it, obviously the filters are one thing, but if you've got dust inside building up on your fans, or you can see it visibly inside, is it better to use a vacuum or to use compressed air?
So it's probably going to be easier to use compressed air. A vacuum's great, but when you're vacuuming out your system, if you're ever doing that, they make special vacuums for PCs that are anti-static. So you probably don't want to just. That's why I say probably blow it out. That's a little bit more accessible to most people. You probably don't want to. If you don't mess with your system that much, there's no real reason to go out and buy an anti-static vacuum. So that's why I would say use some canned air.
Oh, so canned air, so don't use a leaf blower.
Yeah, probably not. Probably don't use a leaf blower. You might blow your system over.
I also have a carpet dryer. No, don't use that either.
Is that one that like you use to like kind of go under the carpet in the flood? Is that what I'm thinking of?
Yeah, it
kind of looks like a turbo.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
it's just like a turbo. Thing is, it starts to go, but once it gets going, it winds up, and then it's just, furious.
Yeah, well, if your fans ever fail, just take your side panel off and put that next to your case, and you'll be good.
Oh, there we go. Yep. We used it for filtering the air during the fires a couple of years ago, like 2020, when it was so bad up here in Oregon. We had box fans and other fans, and I got a bunch of HEPA filters. Actually, some of my community members sent me HEPA filters from places that weren't on fire, and we just kind of attached the HEPA filters to the intakes and to help move the air in the house and keep things from being awful.
Man, that's a good idea. That probably filtered really well, provided good airflow.
The box fans, they fit the size of the filters, and they actually were amazing. What was scary was the first day that we started doing this, because the smoke up here was so bad. The fire line was a mile from our house, so it was. Well, I'll show you guys pictures, but it was, you couldn't, like, I could look right at the sun, and it looked like this on a clear. It was clear, but it just looked like a little ball.
Wow.
Floating in the sky. It was so I couldn't see across my backyard.
Wow.
That's how much smoke is in the air. So, yeah, I pulled it out. We changed out our house filter. It was all sticky and goopy and gross. But the cool thing was, once we got the major parts of the house air filtered, we had to change those filters out. Yeah, they turned this really gross, icky brown, but then it cleaned the house out really, really well. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because somebody else uses these types of fans also in their cosplays for very similar reasons. And I'd never thought about it until I saw them this last weekend, but they use PC fans inside the helmets of a lot of different cosplays, from stormtroopers to Spartans to Darth Vader, in order to help ventilate that air in there to keep them from just fogging up their masks.
Interesting. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
These fans don't take a lot of power too, so yeah, it'd be pretty easy to like have a setup and power, and that's smart.
Yes, it's a lot. I was just kind of thought it was ingenious, and it made me think of all the reason I have so many different styles of fans in the house is because of those fires.
Yeah.
But yeah, our house filter was disgusting. So interesting things to think about. All right, so let's talk about what. So this is right now. You've got fan, case, radiator fan.
We got the case in the very front, actually. So we've got case, fan, radiator, and other fan.
So I noticed you're helping them hold it up. I take it it's because it is definitely so heavy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, having the extra fans does add a lot of weight to it. So we might actually get the drill out here just to get these mounted a little easier.
Hayden's like, I will use
Hayden's
the drill.
one-time
It's already there.
authorization. Yep.
I had it ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you just spin it around just a tad so we can see what you're doing, if possible. I don't want to
Hey, good.
screw up the process here.
It's just hard to line up
Yeah.
a fan into a radiator.
We'll get one here mounted, and then we'll, there we go. Now we can.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right.
You see with all the intakes? Yes. All the intakes, yes. The, also, just an F. Oh, that's how you're doing it. I see. And so we're going to slide the other fans in there. One by one.
Yep. Now, we'll probably put the bottom two ones in, because once you start getting them mounted and screwed down,
It's
it
a little
does.
tight.
It
Yeah.
makes it pretty tight. So we got those top two ones. You can see those black screws pretty easily out there on the top.
Yeah.
So once you get those mounted, you're pretty much set. That's the challenge.
Gotcha. And that gives you a little flexion, a little flex room right there to just kind of
Yep.
play with it, making sure you're paying attention to those the cables. Now we've got 10 fans on this. Obviously, this is going to take 2 lighting boxes, and we've discussed before the difference in how you will align those lighting controllers because of the fact that there's less, I would say, space for cable management in the back of the case.
Yeah, so on this one, for these fan controllers, we can either bundle them together and tuck them under, or we can kind of put them side by side.
Okay,
So,
gotcha. I'm kind of fascinated by looking at this. I'm also super jazzed because knowing that they're going to be punching this for a lot of power and a lot of processing power with all that RAM, this is going to, I feel like this is going to be a much cooler system than you might see in a traditional build. Gotcha.
yeah, this thing will be running really cool. Now, obviously, if they're doing video editing, which I think is, or rendering, which I think is a pretty safe assumption here, you know, it'll heat up, but they're really going to benefit from these fans, especially doing a push-pull on the 360.
Real quick, huge shout out and thank you to Necro Rizo. Thank you for the sub hive. Let's go. Let's go. Thank you, thank you. And I have also just received a gift that is going to make streams a little bit more interesting this week. I now have an additional unlimited code for my stream and a 25 people code for my stream. So it looks like we're not down to just the 5. We've got a bit.
Nice.
And Ivory's asking, did everybody get the Discord code? It's in the Discord. If you haven't gotten into our Discord, make sure you're jumping in. It's discord.gg/CLX Gaming. Hang out with the CLX community and all of us here at CLX. Ask your questions, talk with each other. You can geek out over techie stuff. It's all sorts of fun and definitely advisable. Plus, you'll get codes. Yeehaw. Yeah, and you know what? Let's real quick, let's take a look at that giveaway part and what's inside of that incredible PC that's in the back corner while they're finishing this up. This, of course, is our March giveaway. It's got powered by an Intel Core i7-13700 with a Phanteks Glacier 1 240 liquid cooler on it. It's got an Asus TUF Gaming Z 690 Plus Wi-Fi motherboard with 32 gigs of Trident Z Neo RGB 3600 RAM. The big feature in this, you can see that line that goes right around there in the very, about 2/3 of the way down. That is the brand new Intel Arc A770 16 gig graphics card. It's got a 1 terabyte Samsung 980 M.2 NVMe SSD plus a 4 terabyte Western Digital hard drive with a 256 meg cache, which is great. You've got your Magnum Gear Neo Cube for the case. Gamdias Aeolus M2 fans, and of course a 1000-watt Phanteks modular power supply that's 80 plus gold. It's an amazing PC and a great opportunity. So make sure you jump in there. It's wild. We saw a couple different versions of those ARC cards while we were at the Intel booth with PAX East, which was neat. So, Paul, do you think that, given what we saw for the Predator version, that we're going to see a similar trend of different varying cooling systems that are going to be attached to the ARC cards, just like we see with Nvidia?
You know, I think we'll have to wait to see, honestly. I'm not sure. I don't know if they're going to release them out and, you know, go that route. But if they do, yeah, we will see all sorts of different ones.
Yeah.
Which would be
Also,
pretty cool because some of those put like all-in-one coolers on them. So that would be really cool to see too.
Yeah. And yes, absolutely correct, Garrick. There is also, this comes with a great peripheral package provided by our friends over at Logitech Gaming, including a keyboard, mouse, headset, and I believe there's also a mouse pad involved. So definitely want to check that out. Okay, so now we've got that basically on.
Mm-hmm.
Now I notice we're leaving the back plates in place, correct?
Yep. Yeah, we are for now. Yep.
Is that for airflow? Like that helps almost act like an air dam for direction.
Yeah, it is. It keeps the air on that side, and then also it hides the wires.
It also makes cable management look a lot nicer.
Yeah, it'll just look cleaner with those. And they do slide back and forth, which is what I like about these covers. So obviously, when you can see Hayden slide it right there. You know, so we slide those out of the way when we plug in our 24 pin, and then can push it back in.
Oh, gotcha. So. Now, we've talked in the past a lot about the fact that most of the times we've got more intake than we do outtake. And or no, wait.
Exhaust, yeah.
Yeah, we've got more exhausting than we do coming in. In this situation, we've got a very similar thing here, but we've got, instead of the fans on the front blowing in, they're blowing out. Correct?
Our fans in the front are our intake, so they are bringing air in. Yep. And then our fans at the top are exhausting.
Got it. The top fan and the rear fan will exhaust. So we've still got that negative pressure in there. So is it the fact that it's blowing in, because normally that would be up top, the radiator would be up top pulling the air out, you're blowing your hot air out the top. Will this, do you think, increase the temperature inside the case, because instead of it blowing that hot air off the radiator out the front of the case, it's bringing air in? Or do you think go ahead.
It may slightly. It's kind of, you know, you're going to have it one way or the other. So here on this way, we might be getting some of that heat from the radiator inside the case. However, the radiator is going to get that fresh air first. Whereas in the other option, you know, you're exhausting the air through it, so it's taking that case air and blowing it out. So yeah, that's kind of the trade-off here.
There we go. And one thing that we've still got the graphics card to go in there too, so that hot air rises. Obviously, that's going to be really simple and easy for those top fans to pop all the way out, so long as they stop tangling each other.
They didn't want to let go of each other. That was cute.
Right? My friend, I want to go next
We'll call that one Jack, and this one Rose.
Yeah.
We'll drop this one on the floor.
Wow. That's great. Don't forget, today's show is brought to you in 2 different parts. We've got our primary build show now. When we take our break afterwards, we'll come back, and Hayden is going to spend the afternoon with you. Building more. Excuse me. I'm still adjusting to the time change. Hayden will be spending the afternoon with you building some more. I'm going to go play some Destiny 2 and run the raid for the first time. You said that you've got an i5 with an i5 4460 with an AMD Radeon R7 250 series. I wish I knew more about Radeon cards.
Yeah. That's an older system.
Definitely still functional.
Yeah, that series of Intel CPUs is solid. Like their i7 of there was like the 4790K, which is legendary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when we were selling Radeon those cards.
We've got a total of 10 fans in this beast. As you can see where that motherboard is, there's also going to be several different options for PCIe. Now, with the we are putting in, just to cover it real fast, an Nvidia RTX 4080 graphics card. Now, that's a chunky graphics card, and it's the Zotac gaming version. So they have that kind of unique swoop in the middle, kind of thins out in the middle. It's oval almost.
Yeah.
In nature.
I'll go ahead and get it out of the box here so we can take a look at it.
So as far as thickness, though, I don't believe this is one of the thicker, beastier versions of the card. This is a little bit of a thinner profile, which will help because it means there's less likely of a chance of covering up those usable PCIe slots.
Yeah, this card is a little bit more modest as far as size goes. Now, Zotac does put this type of cooler on a 4090, and that one is a beast.
Yeah.
I kind of opened this box really weird, but this box does open weird. I usually open out the side. This one unfolds.
Huh. Interesting. And as a reminder to everybody that when it comes to the positioning of the PCIe slots on this, while it does have 2 Gen 5 PCIe slots, below the first one, which is where we're going to be putting the graphics card, there is 2 stacked M.2 placements there with that big heat shield, so it moves that PCIe slot down to the bottom of the board. And that'll help ensure not only that there's airflow, but that you're not having to worry about cramming anything all up next to each other when it comes to installing that audio card. Alrighty. For anybody who doesn't know, right when we first started the show for last summer, I needed we didn't get me some gear to wear on stream. And so Paul grabs some stuff and sends it to me. He's like, "Hey, you got stuff arriving." I open up a box, and it looks to be a brand new 3090 Ti card. I was like, "What is this?" They sent me a 3090 Ti, and I opened it up, and it was all my clothes.
Got him.
It's the greatest troll ever. Okay, and I'm gonna be honest. That thing looks like a luxury cruise ship.
Yeah, this thing is awesome.
From the side, yeah.
Look at this.
The luxury cruise hoverboard.
I like these colors on here. This is cool.
Yeah.
Iridescent. Yeah, nice. Yeah.
It's a
I like this
great-looking
card. It's they're breaking away from the squared off feel, which I like. It's kind of a breath of fresh air, honestly. So yeah. I dig it. This is bigger than I remember, but this card is lighter than it looks.
Yep, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier with regards to seeing the difference between those 4080s, the one that was installed in that one machine, and then the 4080 with the water block on the machine next to it. Noticing that back plate was only as long as the PCB, which is definitely shorter than the entirety of the card.
Yeah, and we can see that on this one too. Like that one that we saw at PAX is probably the exact same size as this. You can see the PCB ends right here, whereas the length of the card obviously comes out quite a bit more.
And based on the heftiness, how it feels in your hand, do you think that it is aluminum or copper?
I'm going to say this is an aluminum one. This might have, one side of these copper heat pipes might be copper. Sometimes they'll paint them so it's harder to tell. But I can show you if I can get the angle right. You can see there's 2 sets of heat pipes running through there.
Interesting. Garrick asks a really good question. Does CableMod make sleeved cables for the 4080 and 4090?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yep. Those do exist.
Because we've actually seen some of them in use. I think we've even used some of them.
Yeah, yep.
All right, absolutely. All right,
fan controllers. Gotcha.
Okay, while he's getting the fan controllers rolled in, so we need 2, because each one, how many does each one hold? 8?
Yep, each one holds 8.
So the second one will just have 2 chains on it.
Gotcha.
I'll just put these over here.
So while he's hooking that up, let's jump back over that graphics card real fast, because PCB stands for what?
Peripheral interconnect bus, I think. Maybe.
Not too sure.
Something. PCB.
Peripheral control board?
Yeah. There you go. That sounds better.
There we go. Peripheral control board. And that's exactly what I was going to ask you to pull out. Let's take a look and see what that actually means with a unit that is definitely older and smaller.
Yeah, so we've got our handy dandy 1050 Ti here, this beast of a card. This card in my hand here is dead, out of warranty, so it's a really good card to use as an example. So if we look at the side here, you can see the PCB is just this part, and then the cooler extends out a little bit for those heat pipes to go through in the fan to cool it. Same concept as our 4080, with it sticking out. But what we like to show here is if I take the screws out and we actually pull the block and fans off of, this is all your GPU is. So if I were to do this to this 4080, it would be just as thin as this card right here. It might be a little bit longer, extend out a little bit, but it wouldn't even extend out that much.
Okay. Also, it looks like we were both wrong. It is printed control board.
There we go. Yeah.
Yep, printed control or circuit board.
That'd be a good.
I even got that wrong. One second. Printed circuit board. Wow.
Clips.
Now failed the midterm and only got 6 weeks left before finals.
But yeah,
so yeah, looking at that, that's so much heat coming off of something so small.
Yeah, it's always just so impressive to me that this is a video card right here. Like, this is it. You can obviously see the GPU with the thermal paste on it, and then we've got our memory chips around here. But yeah, it just shows you, you know, the bulk of a card when you're looking at one. The size is all to just deal with the heat that it generates.
Now, speaking of heat, since we've kind of talked about this a couple times already, what's the ideal heat for inside your computer and your CPU, GPU?
Like for temperature goes?
Yeah.
So it all depends on your hardware. So like this 1050 Ti here would run a whole lot cooler than this 4080. Like this thing might run 30C maybe, you know, in the 30s, obviously depending on if you're gaming or not. Whereas this card, you know, is probably gonna be up there at 50 to 60, even higher depending on the gaming application.
When's it too hot? At what point is your PC too hot and it's in danger?
80, 90.
So yeah,
90, right?
it's up there. Yeah. That I would say 90 is definitely getting to be where you'd want to watch it, depending on, you know, what card you are. Now these cards and CPUs now are designed. Some of them are designed to run as hot as they can without breaking anything. So there's technology in them that's gonna it's gonna make them slow down if they're getting too hot. So you'll see that. So they will constantly be adjusting and spinning up the fans faster and slowing them down based on the need of the system.
Gotcha. Okay.
So if you're, where you know you're getting too hot is if you're gaming and then your computer shuts off, black screen, completely done. Then you go to turn it back on, it turns on, you almost get boot up and then black screen again. And then you got to leave your PC off for a few minutes, let it cool off to boot back up. Yeah, you just put it in rice, easy.
Jeez.
Yeah, but you know, that's how you know. And the turning off is a good thing, honestly, because that's your PC protecting itself. Your PC saying, hey, I'm too hot, I'm turning off, I don't want to break.
Gotcha. Sounds good. All righty. So now we are on to what stage are we at now?
So Hayden's doing the cable management right now. So he's got the fans plugged in. He's working his way through the fans and the case wires. So
perfect. So while we're doing that, maybe we should pull out that power supply real fast and talk about that, because
I've been waiting on this.
This is going to be be a big one. We've got a 1600 watt. Now that is a whopping huge amount of power. It's a 1600 watt EVGA Supernova G2 series, and this is a, well, let's take a look at it because I don't see what it. It's a 80 plus gold. There we go.
So I've been excited about this because we hardly ever get to use these on the show. Now you'll see I'm picking the power supply up with a handle here, and if your power supply box has a handle on it, you know that's an issue. I mean, this would be a good MERS for me right here. But
are your magic cards in there?
Yeah, I could put my magic cards in here. So we've got an EVGA 1600 G plus 80 plus gold 1600 watt power supply here. This thing is huge. So we'll go ahead and get this out. Same concept as, you know, all the other fully modular power supplies. This one is just giant.
Now, you said fully modular. What different kinds of power supplies are there?
Yeah, so there's 3 different types of power supply. You've got, as far as cabling goes, you've got modular, semi-modular, and non-modular. So this is fully modular, which means once I get this out of the box, none of the cables are going to be pre-soldered into the power supply itself. Semi-modular would mean that a few of the cables, typically a 24-pin, an 8-pin for your CPU, and another 6+2 for your video card are usually soldered in, and then the rest are modular. And then a non-modular is all the cables of the power supply are soldered in. So,
gotcha. Well, and does that presence of extra cabling, say, in the non-modular affect any of the airflow in the case for all of the pieces that aren't used?
Yeah, so it definitely can. Basically, if you have a non-modular power supply, once you get everything plugged in, you're left with an excess of cables. So, if your system's not that clean, you've got cables just kind of hanging out, that can definitely, block some airflow there. But you can bundle those cables up neatly, zip tie them together, and usually there's an area in the cases that are in front of the power supply. You can tuck those in to reduce the amount of airflow restricted.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
there we go. That looks like a heavy brick, something that might break a window.
Yeah, it's heavy and it's long as well. So this is bigger than what we usually see here.
Wow, that is bigger.
Yeah, extended for sure.
So why is that?
So that's just because this has so many components in here to get it up to that 1600 watts from the 1000 watt. That's typically a little shorter than that. So something else to point out too here is this power cable. Now, you probably haven't seen a power plug like that.
Oh my God. I mean, yes, I have, but only because of the fact that my housemate has kilns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
and we had to have specialty wired GCFI outlets just for those kilns to be able to plug in. That was the one that has the ground flat, and then there's one like this and one like this. But those looked like they were all just flat in the same direction.
Yeah, so these are all flat in the same direction, and really I'm not sure why it's done that way. The part that goes into the wall is the same.
I would assume because the cable is rated differently than a standard cable.
Yep. It is rated better, but it's just a little weird to me, because if you lose this power cable here, this power supply is dead. Yeah, you can't pull another one, which maybe is why. But it's still like, come on, just make it regular here.
Which has been, that's one of the things that I've noticed. Like anybody who's ever had a monitor or a PC in the last 10, 12, 15 years, it's all been the same power cable. It's all been the same. Some of them you'll see, instead of it being the little round, I would say, parallelogram looking thing, you'll get the three that are the 3 round circles.
Oh yeah.
Those are we
call those the Mickey Mouse cables.
Yeah, exactly. The Mickey Mouse cables, which I never understood why that was a thing either.
Yeah, I don't know. You see that with like laptop adapters a lot, that goes into the power brick. I'm not sure.
Subaru in the house.
So
yes, so far, knock on wood, we have not caught the PAX box. But we were also masked like 90% of the time.
We haven't plugged it. All right, so
it's not pinching the power supply.
We're going to get our sound card here plugged in. Hayden's going to install this. Probably, let's see. Yeah, spin it around.
Now, Paul, there is sound built into this PC. There's sound built into the graphics cards. Why would you need a sound card?
So a sound card is going to it can give you a lot cleaner sound here. You can see all these components on here and this card itself. This is gonna just give you really smooth sound, a lot better than what you could get without it. You can hear footsteps better.
Yes, absolutely agree.
That's typically the main reason why I hear people get sound cards. So.
Yeah, it has it maxes out at a 5.1 channel output, but it also has a unique input.
Yeah, and something to see with Hayden doing that right there. So you can see him plugging in a connector there. That's coming from the case. That is our HD audio from the case. So that's if we were to plug in a headset to the front of our case, he's making sure that's plugged into our sound card. Now typically that's plugged into the motherboard down there.
Right.
But if you're installing the sound card, you want it there.
Well, it's interesting because this motherboard, being as extreme as it is, it has a extremely premium audio suite on it. It's got the WMA audio capacitors, ESS Saber 9218 digital audio DAC. So it's also impedance sensing. It's a whole Nahimic audio. I think I said that right. Nahimic? Anemic?
I don't know.
It's a Nahimic audio processor, which also is surround sound capable. But this gives you the chance of plugging in individual speakers with it and actually having the ability to manually adjust those speaker levels. So in the event that you are creating, again, a surround sound environment, if you're editing film that you've recorded in surround sound, but you're not in a perfectly square room, you oftentimes need to be able to individually control the levels of each speaker so you can balance it out so that sitting in the dead center where your workstation would be, I only say this because I've done it before, to make sure that it is equally putting you in the dead center of the thing. You should feel like you are completely enveloped in sound with a 5.1 surround sound system. I had to recently go through that with my house surround sound system because I'm dumb. We've had this for, I don't know, 8 years or ish. I switched out from my Harman Kardon finally died, so we ended up going with a Yamaha with all Harman Kardon speakers and 2 Bose speakers. So we've got a 7.1. But the way I had everything going was the audio return from the TV into the stereo. Well, what I didn't realize was that in doing so, the cable at the time wasn't capable of punching all of the audio channels through. So we were getting simulated surround sound from the center, right and left speakers. That was it.
Oh.
When I changed it and actually plugged it into the HDMI on the back of the receiver, all of a sudden, we now have complete and total actual surround sound. Changed the entire nature of everything that we've ever done in the living room, which is awesome. Now, I noticed Hayden shaking your head a little bit. What's going on?
Yeah. There are 9 VGA ports on this power supply.
What?
So
why would you need 9?
So, for reference, this 4080 is going to take 3. So 4090 is usually 4. This power supply has 9.
Hypothetically, you could have 2 GPUs.
There you go. Now typically where we've seen this power supply used before is in mining rigs. So that is why you have that many. You know, if you're running a mining rig, getting your crypto on, this is usually the power supply you're running.
Gotcha.
So you can, plug in all your video cards, make that money.
I'll be honest, I still don't understand how mining rigs work. Just sits there and chugs through data until it all of a sudden becomes worthwhile.
Yeah, you sacrifice your video card in the hope that the currency you're mining will make you a millionaire. That's how it works.
Or you buy like 10 GPUs,
yeah,
mine and all of them,
and
hoping that
sounds
you
like
get more money.
Like a lot of effort.
It's lottery.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely, it was huge because there's definitely times where, if you'd buy the highest end video card you could and you'd make your money back in a few months. So,
yeah. In Native Temperance asked a good question. Is a PSU, this build, is this PSU and this build way overpowered for how the PC will ship?
I'm not sure. I understand the question there for how it will ship.
I'm not sure I do either.
But maybe mean for like this application, this power supply is going to provide well over the power that this system needs currently. Now this customer might have ordered this power supply because they've got future plans for this PC and plan to power a few other things. So in that case, that would be why they ordered it. But
or for the long run, not wanting to upgrade.
Yeah, for the long run, not want to upgrade. I mean, this is a power supply you buy, you're going to have for 10, 20 years, honestly.
Yeah. And just knowing what I've had to put through, you've seen all the incredible ports in the back. When you're doing that kind of graphics or doing that kind of video editing or audio editing, there's usually many other things involved in that, including digital audio workstations like a DAW or digital video workstations where you've got full-on ATEMs and video editing software that has to run, and that takes a ridiculous amount of memory to function and processing power, which this board has the capability of being able to punch that kind of data in and out of it because it's got those 40 gig ports, it's got the 20 gig ports, it's got 2.5 gig ports. So much processing power and speed to be able to get that dynamically going through without much of a lag or without it chugging along. Yeah, true math should be illegal. I'm going to be honest, I'm not a fan of math. Yeah, just now that you've put that in, absolute, complete and total difference in the regular size of our normal power supplies. Look at that.
Yeah, you really notice the difference once you get this thing in a case.
It's like halfway into the case right here.
Yeah, it's a chunky boy.
And then imagine having to put a hard drive in.
Yeah, right. This is where your hard drives are stored, is down here. Now, this customer doesn't have any in this build because they're going all out with a 2 terabyte extra NVMe drive. But this is where we would mount our extra mechanical drives. There's still room in there to mount one, but it would be a tight fit right now.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so now I've got the cables all going in. So are you going to start mapping out your cable management first or focusing on getting everything connected first?
I'm going to do connections first and then go down the lines of zip tying everything.
Gotcha. Okay.
I always start with my 24 pin.
Yeah.
I'm going to need a nap today. I swear to God. Okay. We got that. I stayed up to my normal time, which was way later than we stayed up on the East Coast. Yeah. Everything was just different.
Traveling will just take it out of you, too.
Yeah. And I had a really long flight getting from, but I appreciate it being scheduled the way it was because I was able to get direct from Portland to Boston. It is a 6.5 hour flight ish, right about there. Or 5:15 direct. It was 6.5 going from Boston to Seattle, and then had a 2.5 hour layover in Seattle before getting on a plane and riding the 50 minutes it is to get to Portland. Got home and then had to tackle dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just jumping up and down and freaked out, and I just had to go in there and let them smell everything. There's like smelling all over the place.
That's funny.
Where have you been? What have you done? Did you remember us? Yeah. Oh, they missed the daylights out of me, and they're very happy because now they don't have to be in their pen during the day. Because when I'm gone and Kevin's at the hospital, like they have to sit in their pen, and it's a big giant play space. But still, they would rather have couch privileges and be able to go get water and when they need it and do their thing.
Yeah.
They're just not well enough. They're in their terrible twos. They're not well enough behaved to trust them alone in the house, unsupervised. Like me being down here is fine. I can hear and check and go up there and be like, stop pulling furniture across the living room. Stop eating my basketballs.
I can completely relate. Me and Hayden were just talking about our dogs. We've got puppies as well, and yeah, I couldn't trust mine to be out in the house.
Nope.
Come home, tear everything up right now.
We've made that mistake.
I also can't leave any sports balls around because Alfie can fit an entire basketball in his mouth.
Jeez.
Wow.
And if I leave a basketball, when I bring him home, usually first thing I do is I come back and put it on the counter. He every time has managed to turn his head sideways, get up on his back 2 feet, and just do this very gently, yank the ball and run with it. And he's just
with a basketball.
Basketball, and then you hear this because he's bitten through it while chewing on it.
Oh wow!
I wanted to find a toy that wouldn't be easily destroyable like that because I ended up buying like a pack of 5. All of them are dead now. So I said, screw it. I'm going to get an undrilled bowling ball. He can't destroy that.
Did he destroy it?
No, but you know what he can do?
Destroy the house.
Throw
with
it across the floor and dent the hardwoods.
Oh no.
Shatter planters. It just. And I realized, well, that was definitely a mistake. Scratched the crap out of the outside, and I thought, well, there you go.
Yeah.
It became a weapon so fast, and both Kevin and I looked at each other like, we should have really thought this through a little further.
That is crazy.
Kind of hilarious. Oh, interesting. Horse toys work well for, good for Danes? Yes.
Man, horse toys. Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Yep.
I had these like metal clips for my squat rack it used to be in my basement, and
Yep.
I had them disconnected and just on the floor, and my dog was chewing on those like solid metal things.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing? Like
Metal-
you're gonna
Yeah.
break your
A
teeth.
fake metal plant in the backyard. She
Just-
pulled it out, and I go out there. She's just chewing on the fake leaves.
I'm like, you're
but
chewing on metal. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I got her a like a pork bone from the butcher shop, and that thing was gone in like less than an hour. It's like this is crazy.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. As I'm going through all the different features here of stuff and whatnots, here's something else that I noticed. So this system, the motherboard, again, going back to the Wi-Fi and the networking connectivity. So they have what's called a killer E3100 and an AX1675 processors, right? The killer E3100 is your Ethernet processor for your chip, and then the Wi-Fi 6E is the AX1675. This motherboard has something that's called, and I believe it's proprietary to ASRock, it's called Killer Double Shot Pro. Now, I asked, what the heck is, Killer Double Shot Pro? Well, according to this, Killer Double Shot Pro allows the user to coordinate using both the Wi-Fi 6E and, which is 2.4 gigabits of speed, right? Plus the 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port, and it combines the throughput for maximum throughput of 4.9 gigabits per second of speed between both being active at the same time. Which I have Wi-Fi on my board, I have Ethernet on my board, and I know for a fact I can't do that, which means this is a smart move for ASRock on this board.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I can't even imagine, like, you want to talk about no ping issues. Damn. There you go. All right, Hayden's working his way through all of that cable management now, getting that all set up. As you can see, the Velcro ties in the back. Oh my God, you're already done with it. What the heck?
Hayden's
GG,
a
man.
beast.
Okay, so since we're already past there, let's go ahead and jump over to my favorite talking point for this whole show, and that's about how you can get into your favorite PC the way you want it by heading over to CLXgaming.com. At CLXgaming.com, we make it easy as possible to configure your PC for just the way you need it. Whether you're choosing a motherboard, your graphics card, if you need an audio sound card, because you're going to be doing any type of audio production, all of those features are right here. Don't worry, you don't have to be an expert like these guys. We have a foolproof system laid out so that in the event that you choose two incompatible parts, that little green button that says add to cart changes to solve conflict. When you click the button, please don't kick the button. It'll give you options as to whether or not which part you need to change in order to be compatible, which is great, and it means that you don't have to worry about selecting the wrong parts and not having it work. Now, if you're not wanting to have to build your own system, don't worry. We have got multiple different models, styles, and configurations in our ready-to-ship builds for everything from the basic model for a novice gamer all the way up to extreme builds for those of you who really take those games significantly seriously, and of course, everything in between. All of our products come with a baseline 1-year parts warranty with lifetime labor and technical support, so you've always got us on hand to be able to get a hold of and ask your questions. So for more information on how you can get the gear of your dreams, head on over to CLXgaming.com. Now, speaking of things like warranties and whatnots, let's chat about what you're going to be doing to this machine once it's completed.
Yeah, so once this system's done And any system we build here, once it gets done, it goes to our testing and integration department. And that's where we will get into the BIOS of the system first, and we'll make sure that our RAM is set correctly, XMP's on if we need it. Make sure all of our storage devices are shown up, so M.2s, 2.5 inch, 3.5 inch drives there. And then depending on the OS, we might have to change some few settings, like Windows 11 needs secure boot. And then after that, we'll load the operating system, any games the customer has selected, and then after that, we put the system through a 12-hour burn-in or a stress test. We run a few different benchmarking softwares. The main one we use, though, is 3D Mark. Then that'll give us a score that makes sure it's testing correctly, and then also in that 12-hour burn-in, that will allow us to catch anything that may have been working, allowing the system to boot, but that had a defective component on it when the system was gaming. So if we got like a bad stick of RAM from the factory, we could catch that there, fix it in that department, and then make sure when this ships out, it's a stable system for the customer.
Speaking of stable systems for customers, we got 50 people who are about to get 100 entries into the drawing. It's Cube-7GRA. That is 7 GRA. Reggie.
All right.
So I see you've got that graphics card there. Hayden's already got the adapters put on. He's ready to put that thing in there. What are some things to keep in mind when you're installing a graphics card into your system, and why do you keep the case like this when doing so?
First off, it's kind of a big boy, and I don't want to. I'm trying to make sure that these are aligning up with my little slots. If they're not, it's going crooked, and that would be really bad, and it could really mess up your board.
And then installing it with the case down, we're really using Gravity to help us here, since it's such a big card.
Speaking of Gravity helping, when we stand this thing up, are we going to need any type of anti-sag device?
Yeah, for this one we do. So we've got that in there, and we'll tighten it down. This has a little bit different one. It's going to use the bottom of the shroud. So we'll finish that up here once this goes into testing. And then it kind of it's an arm basically that just attaches there, and the card will rest on.
Here's a question for you. So Des WTF says, hi, I need some help with my PC connecting to the internet. I have an Ethernet cord and everything is plugged in, but it keeps saying Ethernet doesn't have a valid IP configuration. How do I fix that?
So on the back of your card, the first thing you want to look for, we call them NIC lights, they're the network lights. So we should see those.
On either side of the Ethernet port, yeah.
Yeah, so on either side of the Ethernet port, there should be one that's like consistently on and another that is like blinking, that's showing information's being transferred. So if you've got that there, both of those on, then you might want to look into your ISP. You might have to call them, but you can pull up the command prompt and type in ipconfig, and that'll bring up your IP info. If your phone is working, you could Google how to look at your IP address, in command prompt, and it's really easy. It's kind of intimidating, but I promise it's really easy, and go from there. And then if nothing's showing up there, then you might have to contact your ISP.
If it's connected to a router, I would also suggest possibly taking a look at resetting your router, making sure it's also lighting up.
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
All right.
And if you Google, also I would definitely recommend, if you can, Google that message that you got that says just exactly the way that it appears in Windows, and that also should be helpful. You can do that on your phone or a separate device.
All right, so we've got that plugged in. We're go ahead and start putting our management panels back on. So
real quick, before we get to the, I just want to point out, since it's looking at the front of it, let's talk about the ports on the front of this. And
yeah, great observation. So yeah, up here at the top is where we've got our front panel ports. So you can see we've got two USB 3.0s there. That's a Type C that's in vertical for there, and then we've got our headset and mic here as well. So, and then
Yes.
something else that's really cool about this case to point out, you can see right by my finger there's like 3 metal dots, 3 kind of copper looking dots. That is going to connect to our front panel, which has RGB strips on it. We'll show that here too.
Yeah,
Like
super fun.
Yeah, it just snaps on, no wires, which is really nice. So,
One of the cool features.
Oh, go ahead, DJ.
I was like, one of the coolest features about this case that I love is the fact that they're all hinged doors.
Mm-hmm. So you can see we've got these are our cable management panels. So you can see Hayden's obviously done a great job at this tie-up. This thing looks really clean for what it is. But this case has additional doors that we can put on that are on hinges like this. Kind of hard to line them up both once you get them in there like that. And then they just fold up and pop in.
It gives it such a clean look.
It really does. And then what's nice is you can, like, say we had to open this up, you know, maybe we were going to replace a fan or something like that. We wouldn't have to take these doors all the way off. Like you said, they are on hinges. So once I get this one in, it's always a challenge.
Right, it's always that first alignment that's like, what happened?
So once we get those in, you know, you could just open these doors up.
Yeah.
And just mess with your cables that way. You don't have to take them completely off. So, really like these. All right, now we'll show.
I imagine between that card and that power supply, that thing is heavy.
Yeah, it is. It's a heavy thing.
All righty. So now I noticed that. Was there a little bit of pushback on that top?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just because of those fan controllers.
Yeah, the way we got those fan controllers. So
Gotcha.
tight in there. All right, Hayden, I'll give you this one. I got the inside plastic off.
If you are configuring your own and building your own case, do make sure that if you have tempered glass on your case, that you are pulling off all the films. It gets very hot in there, and it would not be great for plastic. I mean, it's plastic at high heat is generally never good.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want that melting down. Oh.
Thank you very much for answering that, Ultimate Loser. We hadn't gotten a chance to get to that, and thank you, GG. The question was, how do I look at my IP thingy? And the answer was, open up a command prompt and type ipconfig and press enter. Yeah. Also
That'll get you that'll get you a bunch of IP information. That'll give you more stuff to work with there. From there, you could ping something, make sure your ping's working, that your internet's actually going out and doing something. But yeah.
Yep. Alrighty. The sound of the plastic coming off. I don't know why I love that so much.
So satisfying. All right, so while Hayden's getting that on, I'm going to put our dust filter on the front. We talked about it a little bit when we were going over the power supply. But this is for our front, our main intake. Very easy. You can see it's got some magnets on the back side. So this just fits into these grooves. And that's it. And then I've got this front panel here. You can see the RGB strips. And then you can see 3 dots right here. And that's what's going to connect with what we pointed out a little earlier there and give this connection.
Excellent. This case, by the way, looks absolutely gorgeous. The all white. It's a white and black, basically.
So good.
Well, it's really cool, and I say this every time we do one of these cases. The first several times I saw these versions of the PCs, I always thought it was the fans that were lighting things up inside that front, but no, it's got its own LED strips. It lights it up inside the case, but that front panel lights up, and those colors are golden.
Yeah, they look so good. Oh, here you go. We gotta use a different power cable for this.
Right.
Yeah.
Since we've got our 1600 watt.
The stock standard one that we generally have there is not going to function.
Yeah, we'll plug in there. So
the jams force it, breaks it, needed replacing anyways.
Yeah.
Murphy's Law. So.
Yeah.
You want to plug that in, Paul?
Oh yeah, sorry. Let's see here. We've got our. All right. We are plugged in. How are we looking over there, Jason? Good to go? All right, we got the thumbs up.
Moment of truth. Let's power it on.
Hey.
Oh, look at that. Oh, I love the way the lights bounce off that front inside. And with the push-pull, it also brings out a little more color. You've got the fans all lighting up. They are all lighting up, yeah.
Our top one there doesn't seem to be.
That's what I was wondering if I just couldn't see that
Probably
one.
got
All
unplugged.
Right. Yeah, when we were shutting that door, so we're going to go ahead and get this open real quick.
That looks so...
Yeah, you get a little sneak peek into the front there. Let's see what that looks like.
Everybody was wondering, it's that the three front fans are fine. It's the top on the internal fans that is apparently being adjourned.
Some stubbornness right here.
Yep. Yeah, Uchu, I totally agree. This is a brilliant look at that. I also love the fact that all four of those bars of RAM, it really provides a beautiful lighting feature right there. It's bright. Like 2 sticks versus 4 sticks, it's a whole different story when it comes to how it looks.
Yeah, it is. It's like a nice solid, like, just block of RGB.
I'm super impressed. So what are you looking at? What are you seeing there, Hayden?
I just had one fan get unplugged.
Oh, okay.
But
oh, and there goes the rear exhaust.
yep.
So in this situation, it's just a matter of repositioning which port you're going to be plugging it into. Because again, we've got 2 controllers, each with 8 or 10 fans. So.
Yep, it's just tracing the wire back to make sure you got the right one. That's why I unplugged the back one there too, so to help.
Oh wow. That's awesome. Ivory pointed out that they've been told by Phanteks that we're so well known for this chassis that people contact them asking for the CLX case.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's a great thing. We'll let Hayden do his thing right there. Also, as you can see, there's definitely a gap there underneath the bottom of it. You can see where the airflow is right there, so that you've got that room for the intake to for the fan intake coming up for that power supply. The one thing we do recommend if you're going to be with the computer is to please make sure you're careful about what you put it on. Carpet has a tendency to potentially cause static electric discharge. So, Paul, what are some best practices in order to make sure that you're not putting your PC at risk when you're setting it on a floor or other surfaces?
Yeah, so what you want to do in that situation, that's my situation at home. So my PC's in my basement, which is carpeted. So I've cut out a rectangle of cardboard that's a little bit bigger than my case. I actually have an Evolv X as my rig as well. And then I just put that on the ground, set your case on top of that. If you've got some plywood, wood, whatever, tiles, anything that's going to compress the carpet that your case can sit on. So,
yep. Yeah, I use tile on mine. So, all right, look at that. We got all those lights in there.
Oh, that's a whole bunch of fans.
It just looks great. I do love the way that the light bounces off those white the AIO tubes. So.
Me too. Yeah. This looks. Just love this case, man. Can't say enough good things about it.
There we go.
All righty.
I'll just throw that front filter back on and then the front panel, and we are golden. This is an incredible PC. Well done, guys. Let's go over once again what is involved with this great PC from Mary in California. First of all, this is a raw Evolv X mid-tower in white. Now, this is going to be coming with an AMD Ryzen 9 7950X processor that's mounted on an ASRock X670E Taichi motherboard. It's 4 32 gig sticks of Kingston DDR5 5200 RAM, give it a total of 128 gigs of memory. The Nvidia GeForce RTX 4080 16 gig graphics card is down below, and down below that, of course, is your creative sound blaster Audigy FX. The operating system is installed on a 1 terabyte Kingston NVMe M.2 drive with, of course, the 2 terabyte Kingston M.2 is going to be the secondary storage drive. The processor is going to be cooled by an Enermax Liqmax 3 ARGB 360 closed loop cooler, and it's got 10 fans from Gamdias Aeolus M2 RGB style fans. All of this, of course, comes in the sarcophagus packaging with Windows 11, and its next point of entry is going to be over into the lab for 12 hours of a burn-in. All right. Final thoughts.
This thing is
super
awesome.
clean.
This
I
is
like the
like,
push-pull.
yeah, I like the push-pull. This is definitely one of the highest end builds that we've done on the show. So
And
this
I
is really
just
cool.
noticed that the GPU has a big RGB strip in the front.
Mm-hmm. That looks sick.
Winterfall asked how much this is. This current build, the way it is designed, is $53.90 on our site. $53.90 for this powerhouse of a PC. So don't forget, we've got till the end of the week to get all of your entries in for the giveaway of that PC that's in the back. You can type exclamation. Well, it's already, they just did it. There it is. There, that is it. Plus, we've got codes for people to win more entries into it. I've still got a 5, a 25, and now an unlimited. So those are going to be happening on my channel as well. You can also check out the codes that have been given out for everything from trivia to you name it over inside of the CLX Discord. You can hang out with our community by going to discord.gg/CLX Gaming. Make sure you check out our social media. That's YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter at CLX Gaming to find out more about what we do, when we do it, and how we do it. This show is on every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific. That's 2 Eastern, where we go inside live builds and assemble them from the ground up. This show also happens in 2 stages. So we're finished with the main portion of the show. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Hayden's going to walk you through some incredible builds, and you're going to get to see how fast he really is. So on behalf of Jason and Kyle in production, I'm DJ, and Paul and Hayden, I'm DJ BluePDX. Don't go away. Thanks for watching. We'll be right back.